All right. Welcome, everybody. Mike Dillard here, and so glad that you took the time to join me on today's webinar. Let me go ahead and just make sure that all of my things that make noises are turned off, Skype and all of that good stuff. All right, looks like we are good. All right. So, once again, welcome to today's training session. I'm super glad that you've made it because today I get to pass along a skill set to you that completely changed my life many, many years ago. And that skill set is the ability to sell millions of dollars of any product or service that you want automatically. So I am constantly asked, whether it's through email tickets or the blog, whatever it may be, how to create effective sales presentations, whether that's a sales letter in written form, a sales video, or a webinar. And so today I'm going to take you behind the curtain and show you exactly how to create all three of those. And my secret, believe it or not, is this little dude right here. So I like to think of my sales presentations as sales robots who have one job, which is to go out and sell all of my products and services for me automatically. And that's how I'd like you to think about them as well. And so when you program him with the right information, he is unbelievably effective. And in fact, he's made me and my business over $50 million in the past 10 years. And today I'm going to show you how to create your own sales robot just like him. So whether you're selling ebooks or online courses, insurance, real estate, maybe you're raising capital for a startup, you've got a coaching and consulting business, maybe you're in network marketing, or if you've got a membership site, personal training services, maybe you've got an app that you're developing or software, it doesn't matter. Anything that you have or would like to sell into the future, this methodology will work. So today I'm also going to teach you how to sell those products and services in a really awesome way that makes everybody feel good and without having to talk to a single person in the process. And in fact, the goal of this is to help you become the hunted instead of the hunter so that your customers will come to you. And I'm going to show you how to do that even if you're extremely shy and maybe a very introverted person who really just shudders at the thought of having to sell anything to anyone. I'm also going to teach you how to sell your product without spending a dime of your money out of your pocket on advertising or cold calling anyone ever. And I'm going to teach you this process by showing you how I've used it over the past 10 years to sell literally tens of millions of dollars of my own products and services in 3 real-world case studies. So the first example that we're going to go over is this guy right here. And this is the very first sales presentation that I ever wrote when I was 27 years old. And this went on to produce over $25 million in total sales and up to $6.3 million per year. And I'm going to actually show you my tax receipts to make sure that you know that that is legitimate and I'm not just making that up. And then I'm going to walk you through this video sales letter presentation, which produced over $138,000 in 7 days. And then after that, it's gone on to produce a residual income that's currently producing $48,000 per month in revenue. And if you stick around to the end, I'm going to walk you through this presentation over here on the right for a list building course that I sell. And I'm going to show you how it's currently producing up to $256,000 per month in sales automatically. So I'm going to take you behind the scenes of all 3 different sales presentations. And yes, once again, I'm going to show you actual screenshots from my shopping cart so that you can verify that those numbers are real and accurate. And I want you to keep in mind that these 3 presentations are for 3 different products, 3 different price points, and in 3 different industries. And every single one of them is totally automated, which means they do 100% of the telling and selling for you. And all 3 of them work unbelievably well because they all use the exact same process that I'm going to teach you here today. So basically, I want you to think of it as a recipe. And if you follow the recipe, there's a very good chance you're going to get a great result. Now, before we dive and get started into the actual training content and the meat of our session today, I want to go over some basic housekeeping to make sure everyone here is on the same page. And I also want to kick out some of the riffraff for some of you who shouldn't be here or that I don't want to be here, frankly. And so I want to go over those rules and expectations with you as well. So let's get started with my primary goal for you today, which is to basically prove to you beyond a shadow of a doubt that every single person on here can do 3 things. First, you can learn how to create a simple automated sales presentation that can make your business millions of dollars per year without having to talk to a single person in the process. Second, that you can sell a product or service without being pushy or manipulative in any way. And in fact, your prospects will look at you with gratitude and appreciation when you use this process. And third, that you can implement this strategy no matter what your personality type is or what kind of budget you have. All right, so those are my 3 goals for the presentation today. I will deliver on those. I can promise you that. So here is why this is important to you, and especially right now at this moment in time, in your life, in your business, whatever it may be. I know this is going to sound a little bit cheesy and over the top. Totally get it. Put up with me for a few seconds because I promise you it is the truth, at least the truth that I have lived. And it's basically this. Learning this skill set will change your life forever. And by change your life, I mean that you will never have to worry about money again. And that's a big claim. And how can I make that? Well, it's very simple. When you have the ability to sell a product on demand, you have the ability to make money on demand. So I struggled as an entrepreneur for 6 years, and for 6 years I chased people, I begged people, and I never made a dime outside of my parents, God bless them, for buying my products out of pity, I am sure, and support of their son. But then I learned this skill set, and within 18 months, after 6 years of crap, I went from waiting tables at a P.F. Chang's to making my first $1 million when I was 27 years old. But I will tell you more about that here in a little bit when we dive into the very first case study. So before we get started, if you haven't done so already, please make sure that you close down Facebook for the love of God. Have a pen and paper handy to take some notes because you will definitely want to. I've got 12 things specifically with this little dude that we're going to be filling out. So make sure you have a pen and pad open, Evernote open, whatever it is that you use so that you can write these down. All right, so here is our specific agenda for today's training. You know, at the end of the day, taking a stranger on the internet and inspiring them to pull out their credit card and buy your product or service is one of the biggest challenges on the planet, if you could imagine. So there's a very specific series of psychological switches that you have to flip in that person's brain in order to get them to go from a stranger to a customer. And today you're going to get that formula. And in fact, there are 12 switches, and I'm going to show you how to program your little sales robot with all 12. And once you do, well, then you will have an extremely effective sales presentation for your product or service and an automated selling machine that works incredibly, incredibly well. Now, if you're shy or if you're introverted, and once again, the thought of selling anything to anyone feels like a 4-letter word to you, if you don't like the word selling, if it feels foreign to you, I totally get it. That is how I was for many, many, many years until I found out how to do this. And then once I did, as you'll see, everything absolutely changed for me. So if you're the same way, this could very well be a massive turning point in your life as it was for me, all right? Now, the difference between someone who makes $50,000 to $100,000 per year selling a product or service, let's say such as an insurance agent or a real estate agent or a personal trainer, and somebody who makes $1 million plus is scale. So I'm going to teach you how to use some amazing brand new technology that's available today to automate your sales presentation. So it can basically go out and act as your own personal sales force that tells your story and sells your products for you 24/7. Now, I don't own this company. It's simply one of the tools that I personally use in my own business. So I'm going to show you what that is and how it works here later in the presentation. Now, speaking of presentations, there are 3 different types that you can use. There's the written sales letter, once again, the video sales letter, and the webinar. So if you've been online at all for the past decade, you've seen all of them. And so today I'm going to show you how to create those same presentations for your business, and more importantly, show you which one you should use for your specific product, how much it costs, how it's delivered, whatever it may be. By the end of today, you'll know which one you should create and use for your specific needs. So next up, we're going to talk about eyeballs. If no one sees your presentation, it's kind of worthless. So I'm going to show you how to put your presentation in front of thousands of people in your target audience every single day without spending money out of your pocket or without being some douchebag spammer in forums and on social media that's shouting to the world in all caps, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, which will just get you ignored and or banned and shunned by everybody else out there. So I'm going to solve that problem and show you how to get around it. Now, finally, last but not least, I'm going to show you how to create your sales presentation in a way that is the opposite of that. That's completely honest, that's transparent, and valuable to your prospects and your audience so that they will actually thank you for sharing it with them, and they will actually tell their friends and colleagues about it as well. You'll never have to feel like some used car salesman again if you apply this methodology to your sales presentations moving forward. So in total, it's probably going to take me about 90 minutes or so to go through all 12 steps and everything else that I've told you about today. So please make sure that you're paying attention. For those of you who are not familiar with my background or my story real quick, I will keep this as mercifully short as I possibly can. But for those of you who have no idea who I am or haven't met me before, I think it's important that you know a little bit about me and the person who's going to be teaching you today. So as for my background and my qualifications, frankly, when it comes to teaching this topic, many of you have probably heard my story and are sick of it, so I will keep this as mercifully short as I possibly can. So I created my first sales presentation in 2007, which we'll get into here in a little bit. It was for an ebook that I had written, and I started to sell it online using this formula. Within 18 months, I was able to go from dead broke and waiting tables at that glorious P.F. Chang's in San Antonio, Texas, to selling over $500,000 worth of that book every single month and the related courses that came after that. So here is kind of some proof for you. This is my 2009 business tax receipt for that company. You can see here it did $6.36 million in revenue, which is just over $500,000 per month in sales. So after that, in 2010, I turned my passion towards finance and investing. I didn't know much about the subject, but it's all I ever talked about. It's all I ever thought about. So I started a new business in that niche. And to launch that company, I created another sales presentation, again, using the method I'm going to show you today. And as for the results, well, they were pretty awesome. That presentation produced $3.2 million, as you can see here, in revenue in its first 7 days, so December 13th through the 20th. And by the end of the first year, it would go on to produce over $10 million in sales. And as you can see here, total number of sales acquired over 8,700 customers in 7 days without having to talk to a single one of them, which is pretty awesome. So this is what I'm going to show you how to do here today as well. So right now, over 400,000 entrepreneurs subscribe to my email newsletter, and I currently have one of the top podcasts in the world on iTunes, which is pretty awesome. In fact, I hit number 1 on iTunes in our self-development category in the first 48 hours. So this is it right here, Self-Made Man. And we've had some amazing guests on, like Tony Robbins and Damon John from Shark Tank, which was super cool. So obviously, it goes without saying that having that level of financial success has been great, but I have to say what's really mattered most is the lifestyle that learning how to sell has allowed me to live, which is a life of total freedom. So there are some really big moments in my highlight reel personally that I'm incredibly grateful for, like spending 2 weeks on Necker Island with Richard Branson, or racing the Mint 400 with Patrick Dempsey, or having the freedom to spend a couple of months in Aspen every summer, which is one of my favorite places on the planet. But what learning how to sell has provided that I'm most grateful for over the years has actually been the little things, like having the freedom to wake up every morning when I want, or buying food or clothes without ever having to look at a price tag, or having the ability to provide substantial support to causes that I care about, like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where we were named Corporation of the Year here in Texas in 2012, which was amazing. Or as one of the 100 members of The Well for Charity Water, which is a big charity organization that I'm a huge supporter of, alongside guys like Tony Hawk here, Matt Hasselbeck, Jeff Foxworthy, the co-founder of WordPress, Matt Mullenweg, or Gary Vaynerchuk. So to me, among those people, there's 100 of them who support this charity from an administrative perspective with a pretty large annual contribution is just freaking amazing. So that's been really cool as well. So now that you know a little bit about my background, let's get to the really important question here, which is today's material and training going to be useful and relevant to you? Is this for you? If not, who is it for? Well, if you make your income through the sale of a product or service, then yes, this is especially for you. If you are a business owner, entrepreneur, or inventor who wants to sell millions of dollars worth of your product or raise money for your startup, this is definitely for you. If you are a shy or introverted person who cringes at the thought of selling, but you know that if you could just figure this out, it would change your life forever, then this is especially relevant to you because we're going to solve that problem once and all for you today. Also, if you have a cash flow problem in your personal life or business, and if you'd like to learn a skill set that can increase your monthly income by, let's say, 3 to 10x within the next year or so, this is for you. And finally, if you want to learn how to create and scale an automated sales campaign that will allow you or your business to go from making 5 or 6 figures in income per year to 7 or 8, then today's training session is especially for you because I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And by the way, if you hear this loud kind of screeching in the background, I hope not. My high-rise condo building in downtown Austin is right above the sharpest corner for train tracks, I think, in the entire country, if I am not mistaken. So about every hour or two, I get the pleasure of hearing a lot of screeching and train tracks and brakes here. So hopefully you can't see that. If so, my apologies. All right, now with that being said, I have some house rules before we dive into the content, and I believe this is the last part of our housekeeping before we really get started in with the good stuff here. So thanks for putting up with me. But first and foremost, no get-rich-quick people allowed, please. I refuse to pander to anything that resembles or supports a get-rich-quick mentality because it's just a lie and, frankly, a giant insult to all of those who put in the real work and effort. So if you're looking for some kind of do-nothing type of miracle sales gimmick that will just magically make you rich, I'm sorry to say that you will certainly not find that here nor anywhere else because there is no such thing. I'm going to teach you a skill set today. I'm not going to give you a gimmick that's going to make your life better. This will require practice and mastery in order for you to make it work for your business. Now, the process that I'm going to share with you works as well as it does because it's based on honesty, transparency, and empowerment of your customer. So unfortunately, this formula can also be used by bad people to do some really bad things. I have been a victim of those really bad things in the past, unfortunately, and you probably have as well. So if you're someone who wants to manipulate or take advantage of people for your own personal benefit, this is not for you. You're one of those douchebags I would like to leave, and I would appreciate it if you would go ahead and do that now, all right? So ultimately, the only way to get what you want in life is to help others get what they want. So if you don't have a sincere desire to help others, if you're some kind of psychopathic narcissist or something, then this just isn't going to work out for you. So I'd appreciate it if you would just go look for something else with somebody else. With that in mind, I've also thrown out some pretty big numbers at you over the last 10 minutes or so. I've told you that I made my first $1 million in my 20s, that my second company made $3.2 million in its first 7 days, and that my companies have produced over $50 million in revenue over the last decade. And I think it should be fairly obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. My results are not even remotely typical. I'm not going to remotely suggest or claim that you're going to make a dime because I don't have control over your decisions, work ethic, or actions. So, following our theme of honesty and transparency today, we both know that the vast majority of people who watch or buy training materials of any kind will never get any results or make any money at all, just as most people who have bought a Bowflex have it sitting in their garage collecting dust right now. They are not hunks or hunkettes looking like supermodels in their next set of infomercials. They want the end result, but at the end of the day, they're simply not willing to put in the time or work to make it happen. Those who do will get the reward. Please be one of them. All right, so if you are still with me after that little rant, it is time to dive in and get to work. You have made it to the meat. So here we go. Step number 1, how to create an automated 7-figure sales presentation. And so right now I'm going to show you how to create one that has the ability to sell at least $1 million or more worth of your product or service this year. And in order to do that, it has to be able to do some very specific things in fact. So let's start by defining what that kind of presentation actually looks like and what features it must contain. So first and foremost, it works for you 24 hours per day, 7 days a week. It never gets tired. It gives the perfect sales pitch every single time, and it can give that pitch to an infinite number of people. Second, it has the ability to take a complete stranger and provide them with all of the information they need in order to make the decision to buy at that moment in time. Third, it answers and addresses all of their questions or objections for you so that you don't have to. And finally, it has the ability to accept their credit card as payment and process the order. So what's really important here is that a 7-figure sales presentation or your little robot is that it's completely automated and that it never requires your personal participation at any time in the selling process. And that's key because that means it's infinitely scalable. And that scalability is the difference between you making $50,000 a year and $5 million a year. This is why real estate agents, insurance salesmen, doctors, lawyers, car salesmen, chiropractors, all of the above have a virtual ceiling on their income. The sales process requires their personal participation, right? So back when I made this realization, I had a very, very, very different motivation that inspired me to start figuring this process out. So by the time I was in college, I absolutely knew that I wanted to work for myself. I had spent all of my years since the day I turned 16, working odd jobs at bike shops and bussing tables. And I realized that there was just no way that I was willing to let somebody else dictate when I had to work or how much I could make for the rest of my life. So I started to explore all kinds of different business opportunities, and no matter what I did, I always ran into the same problem. In order to make money, you had to eventually sell something to someone, which is obviously the definition of a business. But I hated it, and I was horrible at it. I was super shy, very introverted, and the thought of talking to a prospect in person or over the phone literally petrified me. It was worse than thinking about calling up a girl you had a crush on in high school. I thought they would judge me. I thought they would reject me. I thought that I was going to end up being a nuisance and they'd get mad at me and that I'd basically just end up looking like this guy. So I did what most people would do in that situation, and I started posting links and telling people about my products in online forums or on social media sites, which just did not work, obviously, and just made people mad. I'd ride my bike around shopping mall parking lots at night, dropping little yellow business cards with an 800 number on it. I'd post flyers on phone poles. I'd buy leads and everything else that I could possibly find, and none of it worked, and I hated every single minute of it. I could not figure out why other people could take the exact same products or service that I had and sell millions of dollars of it, while I couldn't sell a damn penny of it, especially after years of trying every single thing that they used and or suggested. And as a result, I just, constantly had to fight back that thought that I'm just not cut out for this and that I just don't have what it takes. So if you've ever felt like this, well, there's a reason. This skill set wasn't taught to any of us. We're not offered how to become a sales wizard classes in school. So the only way that you've even had a chance of learning how to sell is if you happen to take a sales job at some point once you entered the real world. So don't be hard on yourself, because this isn't common knowledge. You have to seek it out, which is what you've done here today. And I think you're going to be glad that you did. So while I hated the thought of selling and my constant failure at it, I hated the thought of being broke for the rest of my life even more. So I kept hacking away at this business thing for the next 6 years with zero success. And then finally in year 6, I was waiting tables one day and also being mentored by some great coaches at the time named Mark and Todd in the evening, who started to teach me how to have confidence with people over the phone. And then slowly but surely, I started to turn the corner and get results. And within a few months, I'd acquired my first dozen customers or so, and I've made a tiny bit of money for the very first time. But instead of feeling elated, I felt devastated. Why? Well, because I'd spent the past 6 years of my life overcoming my fears. And now that I realized that if this is what my life is going to be like, if I have to call 50 strangers a day and chase after people and pitch them on a product and overcome all of their objections and excuses to close a sale for the rest of my life, I had no interest in doing that. So I had a choice. Either I could figure out a way to build my business in a way that I actually enjoyed, which meant I'd never have to chase people down, I'd never have to pursue them, I'd never have to pitch them over the phone or convince them of anything or answer a single objection, or I'd have to go start over from scratch and do something completely different in a different industry. So I decided to look for a solution, and thankfully, I found something that would change my life forever. And that was the discovery of the concept called direct response. And so essentially, direct response is a type of marketing campaign that's designed to create an immediate action or even sell products right there in the ad without the need to talk to a prospect first. So I realized that I could simply write or record a sales presentation that would do all of the telling and selling for me, which took me out of the equation. I could essentially sell without being there in person to screw it all up. So I bought every book and course on direct response marketing that I could find, and I started writing my first sales presentation, which was this little letter on a simple little website that I made from scratch, and this is actually a picture of the very top of that letter here. It was 18 pages long, and those 18 pages could take a complete stranger on the internet, educate them about my $39 ebook, and take their order. And in fact, here's a picture of one of the original copies that I had printed out at Kinko's every week. So you could either get it in a PDF format, or I could send you this spiral bound version, if you will. So within a few weeks, I had replaced my income waiting tables. I told my boss, David, goodbye. And in fact, as I was about to throw my uniform into the trash, he said, "Mike, man, you better keep it, because this stuff never works out and you'll probably be back in a month or two. Well, I did come back, but in fact, it was about a year later to have lunch, and I drove there in my brand new $180,000 Aston Martin Vantage. So within a few months, I was selling about 50 copies a day of that book, and if you do the math, that's $2,000 in sales per day or around $60,000 per month. I'd freaking done it. I'd figured out a way to sell anything that I wanted, and I never had to speak to a single person over the phone or in person to do it. So within the next 2 years, I'd go on to create some additional courses to sell on various topics, and I wrote some more sales presentations, and by 2009, my sales presentations were producing over $500,000 per month in revenue for me, and it was totally automated. My life would obviously never be the same again, and that's why I said earlier, once you acquire this skill set, the same can definitely be true for you. So what is the secret? Well, it's psychology. I want you to think of the human brain as having 12 different psychological switches on it. And in fact, it's obviously no coincidence that our little sales presentation robot has 12 different components or triggers, and each one of those is designed to flip its corresponding switch on the human brain. When all 12 of them are switched from off to on, the brain gives the green light to make the purchase. So we're going to dive into those 12 steps right now, and this is the good stuff. This information is literally worth millions and millions of dollars to you and your business, so listen up. And before I forget, this is critical, I should go over this first. When it comes to selling any product or service, you have to understand what you're really selling. And this analogy will help you do that. This totally had the huge light bulb go off in my brain years ago when I discovered this. So write this down. Nobody buys a drill because they want a drill. They buy a drill because they want a hole. So nobody buys a gym membership because they want to go to the gym. They buy a gym membership because they want to feel good about the way they look in the mirror. Nobody buys a course on marketing because you want to read a course on marketing. You buy a course on marketing because you want to make more money. So make sure that you realize that your customer is not actually buying the product or service that they're buying. They're buying the benefit or the result that it will give them. Okay, so now that we have that covered, here's step one of our formula that we're going to program our robot with. So step number one, identify your target audience. And this is designed to answer the question in your prospect's head, is this for me? Okay, so somebody seeing your sales presentation must know whether or not it's relevant and useful to them within the first 3 seconds, or they will leave. So answering the question, wow, what is this website about? Is this for me? Is our very first step. And this is usually done in the very first sentence of text, commonly referred to as a pre-headline, which is typically something like this. Attention entrepreneurs, or attention ladies, or are you looking to lose weight for spring break? Whatever it may be that identifies your target audience the best is what we're going to use. At the end of the day, if your website or sales presentation is unclear and they have to guess whether or not this information applies to them, they're gone. Confusion is our enemy. We want to instantly and as quickly as possible end that confusion. And so an example of how I did that on my first letter for Magnetic Sponsoring is this right here. Are you currently building a network marketing business or about to start one? Well, hold on because, and then it goes into the headline, right? So that is the example. And so that's our very first step right here, which is identify your target audience. And once again, that answers the question, is this for me? Right, that brings us to step number 2, which is identify their biggest problem or desire. And that answers the question, can this help solve my problem? So in this section, you're going to name your target audience's biggest problem, challenge, or desire. And the more specific you are, the better. So this is typically done in the headline, and it continues into the first few paragraphs of your presentation. Now, for example, here's how to get off the yo-yo diet and finally lose weight permanently. Okay, so our biggest problem there is obviously someone not feeling good about their weight. They want to lose weight. And their biggest desire is to get off the yo-yo diet train and to finally lose weight permanently. So if someone's feeling that way and that's what they want, that's their challenge, that's their desire, we're just going to address that head on, right in the center of the dartboard. Another example of that is from a presentation we're going to dive into more here later, one of mine, which is how to grow your business, grow your wealth, and make a difference in the world. So I want to specifically target people who have these desires, and which is why it's right there front and center on the headline above my sales presentation. Now, obviously, my target audience for this message is entrepreneurs. So what do most entrepreneurs typically desire most? They want to grow their business, they want to make money, and they want to do so in a way that helps others and makes some kind of positive impact. So those are, once again, the three things that I put front and center on this example. All right, step number 3. This is called Create the Bond. And it answers the question, do they really understand what I'm going through? So after we identify their biggest pain or desire, we need to establish rapport. So the third step in our formula is called the bond, because this is where we want to empathize with our audience and we want to create a common bond with them based on shared experiences, problems, and frustrations. So this is best done by telling your story of how you had the same kind of challenge which led you to the discovery of a solution. So this is commonly summarized as feel, felt, found. I know how you feel, I felt the same way, and then I found a solution. So the more open and honest you can be here when it comes to sharing your personal story of pain or frustration, the better. The reason I was able to sell millions of dollars worth of my ebook is because I knew exactly how my prospects felt. I lived their pain for 6 years. I knew exactly what it was like to feel a lack of confidence, to try and to try and to try for years to make money and build my business without success. I knew what it was like to deal with doubts from friends and family, or to constantly wonder what was wrong with me and to fear the thoughts of what my life would look like if I continued to fail. So it's that shared experience that brought us together, just as this shared experience, the frustrations and challenges of learning how to sell the products or services you love, has brought us together here today, all right? So the third thing that we're going to tell our robot to do is to create the bond. Now, step number 4, present the solution, and it answers the question, well, gosh, how did you solve it? So this is where we unveil the solution that we've either discovered or created. And for an example, after 5 years of this vicious cycle of losing weight and then gaining it back, I decided to take matters into my own hands. And the result is a simple, easy-to-use nutrition system that will finally allow you to lose that extra weight and keep it off permanently. And it's called the Paleo Protein Shake 2000. All right, how do you like that for a name, huh? So that's kind of, again, a brief little example of what that starts to sound like at this point in your sales presentation. So step number 4 is to present or introduce the solution and answer that question in their head, how did you solve it? So step number 5 is establish your credentials, and that answers the little birdie talking to them in their head that says, okay, that sounds interesting, but why should I believe you? So this is the part of your presentation where you obviously dive into your bio and tell people all about yourself and why they should listen to what you have to say about this product or service. Now, it is very, 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 very important to note that you do not need any kind of actual title, credentials, or accreditation of any kind. I cannot stress that enough. The only thing that you need is your story and personal experience. That's it. How do I know about this problem? I lived it. How do I know the solution works? I used it. That's it. And you can even tap into the credibility of others. So an example of that would be, in order to create the Paleo Protein Shake 2000, I partnered with the foremost authority in the world on health and fitness, Dr. John Smith. Okay, so you don't need a title, you don't need accreditation, you don't need anything other than your personal story and experience. That's all this is about. That brings us to step 6, which is educate them. The question they're asking themselves is, okay, do you really know what you're talking about? So one of the promises that I made to you at the beginning of this webinar is that I'd help you create a presentation that your prospects will love and thank you for. So we do that by delivering actual value in the presentation. We teach them and we educate them, and a few amazing things will happen when you do that. First, the very act of teaching positions you as an educated authority on the subject matter at hand. This builds trust. Second, it creates something called goodwill. So before your customer has even spent a dime with you, you're demonstrating that you're willing to help them, educate them, and give value free of charge. So this goodwill deepens that level of trust and comfort even further. And if you educate your prospects and if you create a real epiphany for them, they will never forget about you and they will tell your friends about you. This is the key to transforming yourself from a salesperson into a trusted advisor. Okay, so let's program our little robot with this data, which is step number 6, educate them. All right, step number 7, show the benefits. And that answers, how will this help me? All right, so during the education process, we're also going to talk about the features and benefits of our product or service. And what you need to know here is the difference between a feature and a benefit. And it is one of the most, if not the most, widely mistaken concepts when it comes to sales. So a feature is what a product is, has, or does, while a benefit is what it does for the consumer. So remember this, features tell, benefits sell. So a feature, again, what it is, has, or does. A benefit is what those things do for you. So here's an example of what most people consider benefits incorrectly. The Super Deluxe drill has 5 speeds, quick release drill bits, a custom carrying case, and an extra battery. So that's typically when you ask someone to sell something, what they're going to say. But these are not benefits. Every single one of these things is a feature, and not once is a benefit mentioned. So let's try that again. The Super Deluxe drill has 5 speeds, which will allow you to easily drill through the most challenging materials and the toughest of walls. Our patented quick release will allow you to quickly change drill bits without the need for any additional tools. The custom carrying case will help you keep your garage clean and organized, and you'll never have to worry about losing your drill bits again. And you'll never have to worry about running out of power in the middle of an important project thanks to the extra battery. So the key to turning a feature into a benefit is through the use of a bridge word or phrase such as will allow you to, will help you, providing you with, makes it simple, fast, or effortless to, okay? So remember, features tell, benefits sell. So let's write that down here for step number 7, which is show the benefits. All right, step number 8 is give social proof. That answers the question, how can I be sure this really works? So at this point in the presentation, your prospects who are still reading or watching have a genuine interest in your product or service. They're now involved emotionally, and now their brains are trying to find problems or threats. Nobody wants to be the first person to try eating a strange plant because the results are unknown and there's a very good chance you're either going to get sick or you're going to die. So it's no different with your product. Our brains are wired this way. It's evolution. If they've never made a purchase from you, they could get burned. It represents a danger. But on the other hand, if you see others eating and enjoying that plant just fine, then your brain will disarm its warning system and give you the green light to go ahead and eat it as well. So we need to flip this switch from red to green, and we do that through the use of testimonials from existing customers who've already bought the product and had a fantastic experience. So I hope this goes without saying. You must always use real, genuine testimonials. If you don't have any, you can give away some free samples of your product or service in exchange for customer feedback. Many times in the past, I will give a big discount to my customers or my first set of customers for a new product in exchange for their feedback at the end. And I don't say for a positive review, I say for your feedback because, again, it just comes back to that genuine authenticity. So what I'll do is simply send them an online form with a couple of different questions on it. What did you think about the product? What did you like best about it? Is there any way to improve it? Would you recommend this to your friends or family? If so, why? Those kinds of things. And then I make sure that I get their permission to use that feedback, in our future marketing materials and things like that. So that's how we've always gone about gathering testimonials for our products, especially if they're brand new and we're just getting it out into the marketplace for the very first time. So this social proof element is a critical step in creating belief in the mind of your customer and reducing suspicion and from getting rid of that danger signal, okay? So step number 8 for us is give social proof. So that brings us to step number 9, which is make an irresistible offer. And that answers the question, okay, what exactly do I get and how much is this going to cost? So this is the point in our presentation when we finally make our offer, and making the right offer, which is called an irresistible offer, can be the difference between making and losing the sale. So an irresistible offer is an offer that's so good that people find it almost impossible to say no to. Now, to make an irresistible offer, it needs to have 4 components, so make sure that you write these down as we go through them. Number 1, acknowledge the benefit. Number 2, diffuse logic. Number 3, inject scarcity. And number 4, remove risk. So to go through these in detail, first, we need to acknowledge the benefit. We need to make sure that we remember what we're selling. We're not selling a product, we're selling the benefits that product provides or the problems that it solves. So an example would sound like this. So if you're ready to end the stress that comes with yo-yo dieting, and if you want to lose weight and keep it off for good so that you can wake up every morning and look in the mirror and feel amazing about the way your body looks, then the Super Paleo Diet 2000 is exactly what you want. So once we acknowledge the benefit that they're really wanting, we have to flip another switch from red to green in our second component, which is diffuse the logic police, okay? So the human brain has 2 sides. There's the emotional hemisphere and the logical hemisphere. The act of making a purchase is an emotional decision, but stirring up the emotions in your buyer isn't enough. If you want to close the sale, you have to convince both sides of the brain by helping them justify their emotional decision with logic. And the offer is the perfect time to do that. So one of the most common and effective logic justifications in the world is diet foods, right? So let's say that you've had a long day, you really want some caffeine, but you would feel guilty if you drank a can of soda. Well, wait a minute. There's a can of diet soda over here, and that means that I can get the caffeine boost that I'm after without the guilt-causing calories or sugar. And then boom, you've just logically justified the purchase, and your brain gives you the green light to pull out your wallet and to buy that can of soda. All right, so here's another example that actually comes from my personal life. Now, my biggest passion in cars, when I'm not racing them professionally, I'm driving the most amazing vehicles on the planet because they transform even the most mundane errand down to the grocery store, or the post office, or wherever, into an experience. Like, it just makes life fun. So a few years ago, my dream car was the Ferrari 458 Spider. But I'd never owned a Ferrari because, frankly, I didn't want to drive around the city feeling like this dude. So when I finally went over to the local dealer in Austin and I took a test drive, and I was freaking floored. It was the single most exciting driving experience that I ever had in my life. I've had Aston Martins, Porsches, Audi R8s. Nothing I had ever owned came anywhere near the performance and the drama and the visceral feeling of that Ferrari. So emotionally, I was hooked. Judgmental onlookers be damned. I didn't care anymore. This was simply the most amazing driving experience I had ever had, and I had to have one. But there was a pretty big problem. A 458 Spider is roughly $320,000, which would make it the most expensive car that I had ever owned by roughly 2x. So my emotional brain was bought in, but my logical brain was not. Well, my salesman Eric deals with this stumbling point every day, and he knows exactly how to diffuse it. He made me an offer I couldn't refuse. He said, Mike, yes, that's clearly a lot of money for a car, but one of the best things about owning a Ferrari is that they hold their value better than any other car on the planet. So how much the car costs isn't that important. It's how much you can sell it for when you're done with it. So these cars are so rare right now that you can drive it for a year, and we should be able to sell it for just a few $1,000s less than what you bought it for. So yes, the price is $320,000, but you'll actually be able to sell it for around $305,000 when you're ready. And just like that, I was sold. He gave my brain the reason it needed to logically justify the purchase and an offer I couldn't refuse. In my head, he had taken the cost of the car from $320,000 on the sticker down to $15,000. And well, frankly, who wouldn't buy a brand new Ferrari for $15,000? So this is the actual 458 Spider that I purchased for $320,000. I took it to the track. I drove the heck out of it. I put 6,000 miles on it, and I sold it back to him less than a year later for $310,000. So at the end of the day, I got to own my dream car, not for $320,000, but for $10,000. So this is how this step in the process works when it comes to creating an irresistible offer. So we've diffused logic, and that brings us to the third component of our irresistible offer, and that's step number 10 in our sales presentation. It's going to go right here, which is the injection of scarcity. And that answers their question, which is, why should I buy this now? So scarcity is the single most powerful psychological trigger and sales tool on the planet, and if you use it correctly, in my experience, it will increase your sales by 300% or more. So if someone can buy your product at any time they want, they have no compelling reason to purchase now, and they'll just put it off as long as they can. On the other hand, people want what they can't have, and if they feel that they're going to miss out on a chance to get something that they want, that scarcity or fear of missing out is going to push them off the fence. And by the way, if you're like my age, I'm 38, if you're my age or older, that is called FOMO, fear of missing out, by the younger kids. I just found this out a couple of months ago, actually. For years, I was like, what the hell does FOMO mean? It means fear of missing out. So that's what step number 10 in this process is going to be. And another great example of that is Black Friday, right? Every major store has a huge one-day sale the day after Thanksgiving every year, and people mob the stores because it's going to be gone the next day. You need to give them a reason to act now, or they won't. They're just not going to. So with that in mind, one important note when it comes to scarcity is that it must be real and genuine, or it will backfire. Okay, so you've probably seen sales presentations over the years where it's like, act now, only 47 left, or special bonus for the next 33 people only. And that webpage has been up there every single day for months with the same number on it. All that does is turn you into an instant liar. Like, you took all of that trust and rapport and bonding that you've done, and you just flushed it down the damn toilet by lying to people. So use scarcity. It will transform your business, but make sure it is real. All right, so that covers the third part of our irresistible offer, which is inject scarcity, and that brings us to step number 11. We've added that here in step number 10. Make sure you get that, inject scarcity. And step number 11 is remove all risk. It answers the question in your prospect's mind, well, what if I buy and it doesn't work? So in this step of the sales process, we have one goal, and that is flip the final switch from red to green, and that final switch is the fear of taking a risk and losing. Your prospect is thinking, what if the dress doesn't fit? What if the software service doesn't have the features that I need? What if I buy this thing and it falls apart a week later? Can I really afford to take that kind of risk? And those are all legitimate concerns that will absolutely stop them from buying. So as the business owner, we need to completely remove that risk for them. We need to guarantee that they'll be satisfied with our product or service, or we'll give them their money back. So removing all risk is our 11th step, and that brings us to our 12th and final, which is our call to action. And that answers the question, okay, what do I do next? So at this point, all 11 switches have been turned on in your prospect's mind, and they're ready to make a purchase from you. The only thing that can mess it up now is letting them experience a single moment of hesitation or confusion. So to prevent this from happening, we want to tell them exactly what to do next and what to expect once they do. So here's an example. John, if you're ready to get started, just click the yellow Add to Cart button below, and a secure checkout page is going to open up. Simply complete the form with your information to submit your order, and once it's placed, you'll receive an email from us with your receipt along with a tracking number for your package, so you'll know exactly when to expect its arrival. And it can be that clear and that simple, but it has to be there. It's one of our 12 necessary steps, and if you don't put that call to action there, and if you don't spell out exactly what they need to do and what they can expect so that they can basically go through the process ahead of time, right seconds before they're about to go through it for real, it's once again going to arm them with information. It's going to educate them. It's going to make them feel good. It's going to get rid of any further and final points of anxiety or stress. And it's what's going to allow the sale to take place. And with that being said, I would like to say congratulations. You are now in possession of the 12-step formula that I have used over and over again for the past 10 years to sell over $50 million worth of my products and services. But we are not done yet. As I'm sure you'll remember, this formula is only one of 3 components that we need to create your 7-figure sales presentation. The first is the presentation itself. The second is our automation. And the third is traffic and attention. And I'm definitely not going to leave you hanging. We're going to go through all of these. So now that we have our presentation, we need to put it online and automate it so that it can produce sales for you 24/7 without your personal involvement. And the first step to doing that is to choose which format best fits our product, service, and price point. So once again, there are 3 formats you can put your presentation into. First, it can be delivered in a long-form sales letter like the one I wrote for my book 10 years ago. And honestly, I have to say, I don't really bother with text-based sales presentations anymore because videos just work so much better. And so we're just going to skip that because your written sales presentation is essentially just your script for your video sales presentation. And why do videos work better, by the way? Well, it's because video engages more of your senses. So a written letter is visual only, while a video sales letter, or VSL for short, involves the eyes and the ears, and both of those allow you to convey emotion in a much stronger way than in writing alone. Your VSL can either be live action with you in front of the camera, or you can do what I typically do, which is to simply record the audio for the sales presentation and then combine it with images and slides into a video, kind of like what I'm doing today. So it's almost like a mini webinar. And again, you can do either one, either live on camera or slides and images and a voiceover. They both work really well. I guess the biggest differentiator is going to be how good are you personally on camera. For me, I'm decent, I'm okay, but that typically involves at least one or two camera people, lights, microphones, and all kinds of other production stuff, where a video sales letter with just slides and text and a voiceover, you can just do at home by yourself with your computer and a microphone. So it's just a lot easier. And it works really, really, really well. All right, so this is an example of one of the most recent video sales letters that I created, and this was actually a hybrid. It had some live video footage for the first minute or two, and then it changed over to slides. So it's for a year-long mentoring program for entrepreneurs that I call the Self-Made Man Society, and the price is either $47 a month or $297 a year. So I wrote out my sales presentation using the same 12 steps that I just showed you, and then I turned it into a video sales letter using slides and a voice recording of the script for, again, about 95% of it after this opening sequence of about 2 minutes of live footage. So I posted the video on this very simple website, which is literally, this is the entire website. It's just this yellow background to headline in the video. And we started sending traffic to it through my email list and through ads on Facebook. And at that point, my job was officially done. It was time to let the sales presentation do its thing. And as for the results, drum roll please. All right, so in less than 7 days, I was able to acquire over 1,000 customers and make over $138,000 in revenue. This is the date right here, the 7-day date. And that's not all. Once people joined, again, it's $47 a month or $300 for the year. The people who chose the monthly program produced another $48,000, roughly 1,000 people at $47 a month in recurring revenue. And what I want to reiterate once again for you is that I did not have to talk to a single person over the phone or via email or frankly anywhere to sell this product. The sales presentation did all of the telling and selling for me, and that's what it's designed to do. And obviously, it's very, very, very effective. So that brings us to the third and final format that you can use to deliver your sales presentation, and that's the webinar. Now, there's one really big difference between a sales video and a webinar, and that is not necessarily the time or the length. It is the level of commitment required by the prospect. So the commitment level for a sales video is really zero because the video is available on demand 24/7. They can watch it anytime they want, and they can leave anytime they want. Now, on the other hand, attending a webinar requires a much bigger commitment. The person must register for the webinar by submitting their name and email address, and it has to be the real email or they're not going to get their attendee link. They have to schedule it into their calendar, and they have to actually show up and attend the webinar, which is typically an 1.5 to 2 hour commitment. And you already know all of this because you registered for this webinar and you made the commitment to be here. So what does that mean, and which one should you use? Well, here are my rules of thumb. I like to use a video sales letter for products that cost from, let's say, $1, like a dollar trial, all the way up to $397. Now, products within this price range can be effectively sold with a 5 to 25 minute long presentation. The lower the price point and commitment level, the shorter you can make the presentation. It doesn't mean it's going to work better if it's shorter. I'm just saying the commitment level and the risk level is lower, so the time that you need to dedicate going through all 12 steps can be lower. One of the examples that I'm going to talk about here a little bit later of somebody else's sales video was for, I think, a $47, $49 product, and it was over an hour long for a video sales letter, which was really unheard of. It set all kinds of records, did almost $500 million in revenue. So anyway, I'll get to that later. Now, once you hit a price point of, let's say, $500 to $5,000 and up, the risk and commitment levels increase, so you need more time to build trust and walk people through the buying process. And in my experience, webinars are the perfect tool for that. And in fact, they've been the single most effective sales tool I have ever used. And I'm going to show you two examples real quick from my previous and current businesses. So the first time that I used a webinar to deliver a sales presentation was back in 2010. I'd started a new company in the financial education space, and I put together a 90-minute webinar presentation to sell the product, which was a monthly membership. And each month, we'd produce and deliver a high-quality lesson on the topics of finance and investing. Now, at the end of the webinar, people were offered the opportunity to join for either $97 a month or $600 per year. So, how did it do? Well, this is the promotion that I talked about at the very, very beginning of today's webinar, which was this one. It was the single most effective sales presentation I had ever created. It brought in, again, over 8,600 new customers in the first 7 days and over $3.2 million in revenue. And considering that I didn't have an office or a team at the time, that it was just me with a newborn child who had been born 2 months prior, it was obviously a hell of a week. So we'd hold that webinar twice a day, every single day for the next 3 years, and it would go on to produce over $25 million in revenue. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Mike, wait a minute, that's awesome, but that also sucks. That means you had to give an hour-and-a-half long webinar every single day, twice a day for 3 years, and that sounds absolutely horrible. Well, you would be halfway correct, and I'm going to show you exactly how I handled that in a few minutes. But first, I want to walk you through a current example of how I'm using webinars right now to sell over $100,000 per month of a single product. So last year, I spent about 4 months producing a course that teaches entrepreneurs how to build a large audience and email list. And it's an unbelievably detailed course. It's basically a masterclass on how to build an email list that could potentially be worth millions of dollars to a person. So I charge a very fair price of $1,500 for the course. Now, with that kind of price point, a webinar is obviously the format of choice for the sales presentation. So once again, I put together a 90-minute long webinar to sell the product, and we hold that webinar every day, twice a day. So since January 1st through May 11th, which is the day I pulled this screenshot from, that's a 132-day time span. That presentation has made $763,919 in sales. That's an average of $5,787 per day, or an average monthly income of $173,617. That's from one single product. In other words, what I am teaching you works. It works really, really, really well. So how is that possible? There's no way that I can do 2 webinars every day for the past few years, as that would frankly violate the third requirement of a 7-figure sales presentation, which is that it must be automated. And that's exactly right, which brings us to the automation component of our 7-figure sales presentation. So here's how that is done. You can create your own sales webinar and hold it anytime you want, as many times as you want, automatically using a service called EverWebinar. Now, please don't open up your browser and go to the site right now, because a video is going to start playing. It's going to mess up this feed. So by all means, check out the service when we're done. I'm even going to send you an email when this is over with links to all of the resources that I've mentioned, so you can go back and check them then. Please wait until we're done. So with EverWebinar, you can record your webinar once, upload it to your account, and then choose the dates and times that you'd like it to show, and then their software does all of the rest. So here's a screenshot of my EverWebinar account, and I want to point out a few things for you. So first, if you can see here, these stats are for the last 30 days, and next, right here, this is the number of unique visitors who came to the webinar registration page. So of these 11,314 visitors, 4,419 registered for the webinar. And of those people, 50% right here, 50.51% actually showed up, which is a really great number, by the way. Most webinars usually get about a 20 to 30% show up rate. I will talk about and show you how I get up to 50% here later. And then finally, you can see down here, of those 2,232 attendees, 142 purchased the course, which is a 6.36 conversion rate, and that produced $214,000 in sales, again, for the last 30 days. This entire process is automated. Now, with that being said, some people feel that webinars should always be held live no matter what. I don't agree. in my humble little opinion, using an automated webinar is better for you as the business owner because you don't have to chain yourself to your computer every day, but it's also better for your audience. Why? Well, simply put, they're going to get the best experience possible. A live webinar is going to be a little bit different every single time. You might be in a bad mood. You might be stressed out. You might be sick. You might just be a horrible presenter like I am sometimes and say, like 3,000 times during your presentation, which would distract from your content and literally just drive people crazy. It's not going to be fun for anyone. On the other hand, if you use an automated webinar, they're going to get the exact same information that you would have delivered live, but now it can be delivered perfectly. You can edit out all of the mistakes or the bathroom breaks or the noise in the background, like your doorbell ringing or your phone going off or your kid crying or your dog barking or whatever it may be, and you can provide them with a truly enjoyable experience that they will love. And you get to actually create more of what you're really after, which is freedom. It will give you more financial freedom because now you have an effective sales presentation that can generate cash flow on demand for you 24/7. And it will also give you more time freedom to be with your family and work on other parts of your business because it doesn't require your further involvement. Now, with that being said, if you're going to use an automated webinar, don't ever say that it's live because that would obviously be dishonest. I simply say that I'm holding a free training webinar, and yes, this webinar is being hosted by EverWebinar. It is not live. Hopefully, I am out enjoying time with my son or doing something productive on my business, because obviously doing this twice a day, 7 days a week isn't practical for anyone. And the information that you're getting today would be the exact same information that I'd be giving to you live. So again, I'm a huge fan of the automated webinar because it creates a win-win for everybody. So that brings us to the third and final piece of our 7-figure sales presentation, which is attention. We've gone through the 12 steps of creating your presentation. We've now gone through the automation portion. We need traffic. We need eyeballs. And when it comes to getting traffic, there is the amateur way, which is what I like to call it, and the professional way. So amateurs try to get traffic to their website and sales presentations using tactics that require an incredible amount of time and effort, but that produce, in my experience, little to no results 99% of the time. These usually consist of making 20 to 30 posts on social media sites every day, like Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, posting on forums, or writing articles and blog posts that no one will ever read. It is a long, grueling battle that might result in 1 or 2 sales per week. In other words, it's not going to work, and if this is what you are doing, you are wasting your time. This is all brawn, no brains. Now, on the other hand, if you approach the traffic getting process like a marketing professional, amazing things are possible. So we're going to do what other real 7- and 8-figure businesses do. We are going to buy our traffic. We are going to advertise. So I want you to write this down and please repeat after me. This is so important. There is no such thing as a traffic problem. There is only a conversion problem. So here's what that means. You can spend $1 million buying tons of traffic, but if your sales presentation doesn't convert that traffic into paying customers, you go out of business. On the other hand, if your sales presentation does convert, then you'll be able to pay for all of the traffic you could ever want. So for example, finding traffic in advertising agencies like the one that runs my campaigns is easy. They're everywhere. But if your offer doesn't convert the traffic that they send you, there's nothing they can do about it. And I hope that makes sense. All right, so let me show you how this works. There's a 90% chance that you found this webinar here today through one of my ads on Facebook, and we post similar ads for my list building course and for the Self-Made Man Society. So here's what one of those ads looks like. Now, on average, we spend about $800 per day on Facebook ads for that one list building course. And if that number instantly makes you cringe and freak out because that sounds like you need a lot of money to do this, stick with me. I'm going to explain because that's not going to come out of your pocket. So here's how the numbers work. So I get a copy of this spreadsheet every day with updated stats from our Facebook advertising campaign. And this is from the month of April, to give you an example, the 1st through the 30th here. Now, as you can see so far, we've spent about $24,342 on advertising, which is an average of $811 per day. Now, it's important that you realize that's not money that I had to pull out of my pocket. You do not need to have $800 a day laying around to make this work. So we actually just spend around $25 a day testing our ads to make sure they convert. And then all of the rest of that money comes from the sales we make. So the money for your ad campaigns is going to come from your customer purchases, not out of your pocket. So from that spend, we generated 22,350 clicks. That's how many people clicked on our ad in Facebook, which is an average of 745 clicks per day at a cost of $1.09 per click. So CPC stands for cost per click. Now, as a result of those clicks, a total of 4,028 people, these are leads, that's an average of 134 per day, registered for my webinar at a cost of $6.04 per registrant, or cost per lead. And as you saw earlier, 50% of the people who register actually attend the webinar, which again is a really high number. That would be an amazing accomplishment for your presentation. And of those who attended, 87, you can see here, sales purchased the list building course for $1,497. So if you were to do the math on that real quick and multiply 87 times $1,497, that would give you a grand total of $130,239 in revenue. The average cost per sale for us was $279. So this means I'm spending $279 on advertising to produce a $1,497 customer, which is amazing. So to review, we spent $24,342 on ads. None of that money came out of our pocket. And we made $130,239 in sales for a net profit of $105,897. But this is just from our cold traffic Facebook campaign. If you were to look at my shopping cart, which I will show you right here for the month of April, we actually made $256,000 in sales of that product from all of our various sources of traffic, like the Self-Made Man podcast and my blog. So I managed to sell $250,000 of one single product in 30 days, and half of that revenue came from completely cold traffic on Facebook. And I did this without talking to a single person during the entire process or spending a single minute managing the business. Everything from setting up the traffic campaigns to the webinars to the delivery of the course is 100% automated. So what if you knew how to do this? Can you see that you're just one single sales presentation away from changing your life forever, and that it's possible? I mean, you've just seen with your own eyes that you can absolutely create a simple automated sales presentation that can make your business millions of dollars per year without having to talk to a single person in the process, that you can sell a product or service in a way that your prospects will appreciate and feel good about, and that you can start using this strategy right now in your business, no matter what your personality type is or what your budget is. Mastering this skill set is the key to your financial freedom, because you can use it over and over again to sell anything that you feel passionate about and that you believe in, which means money will never be an issue for you again. So where do you go from here? Well, if you feel confident enough to take this knowledge and run with it, please do. It is now yours. But I will leave you with some words of caution. As with most things in life, when it comes to creating your presentation, success is going to be found in the details. Just because you know how the game of football is played, well, it doesn't mean that you can walk onto the field and win a Super Bowl. And it's no different here. So what I've just shared with you today are essentially the rules of sales and persuasion, and it took me about 1.5 years of dedicated study and practice to really master this art. The question is, was it worth it? Obviously, right? Learning this is what allowed me to go from waiting tables to making my first $1 million within 18 months, but I studied and I practiced every night for 2 to 3 hours after I'd get home from work, right? The bottom line is that you cannot skip the process. If you want to become a doctor, you've got to go through med school. If you want to make money online, you have to learn how to create effective sales presentations, period. But 2 years is a long time. I totally get it. And I don't know what your confidence level is right now when it comes to creating one of these presentations on your own. You tell me, is it 20%, 30%, maybe 50%? Well, what would your confidence level be if I walked you through the entire process step by step and line by line? Would that increase your confidence level to what, maybe the 80, 90% range? And what if we could shorten your learning curve down from 2 years to just 2 months? Well, that's what I'd like to do with you guys today. And I want to give a few of you the ability to dramatically shorten your learning curve down from 2 years to just 2 months. And I'm actually going to guarantee that you will end up with a sales presentation that successfully converts so that you can start making sales and money right away. Well, today I'm going to give a few of you that opportunity, and here's how we're going to do it. Starting next week on Wednesday, June 8th, I'm going to walk a limited number of students through a 2-month-long master class. Now, the program is called 7-Figure Sales Presentations, and as one of the participants, we are going to write and create your $1 million sales presentation from start to finish together. So by the time that you're done, you will have a converting VSL or webinar that sells your product or service for you automatically live and on the web. And I'm going to guarantee that it works for you or the class is free, but we'll get more into that here in a couple of minutes. So if you're tired of chasing people around and begging them to buy your product or service out of pity, if you have a product or service that you would just love to sell more of, but do it with a lot less work, if you're tired of living paycheck to paycheck and you want to take control of your financial destiny, and if you finally want to acquire the ability to create cash or revenue on demand 24/7 from anywhere in the world without ever having to talk to a single person, then this program is specifically for you. So here's how it's going to work. The 7-Figure Sales Presentation Masterclass is not just a course, it's an implementation program. So by the time we're done with it, you're going to have a complete and working video sales letter or webinar that sells your product or service for you automatically. In other words, I'm going to help you assemble your very own sales robot with you step by step. The actual videos that you'll be getting in the masterclass will be recordings of my computer screen as I walk you through the entire creation of your sales presentation step by step and click by click. So you don't have to have a bunch of technical skills. You're literally going to follow with me. Watch my mouse, watch the screen. I'm going to show you how to do everything. Together, we're going to start at the very beginning and go through the entire process. So in module number 1, I'm going to teach you the timeless foundational building blocks of sales, persuasion, and influence. These are the unbreakable rules based on human psychology that you absolutely must know in order to effectively sell anything. These are those rules that will allow you to go from a needy, arm-twisting entrepreneur who's desperate to sell your product or service to anyone who will listen to you, to a confident authority who speaks from a place of power and service. These are those little-known but priceless rules that allow you to become the hunted instead of the hunter. So that's where we're going to start. In Module 2, I'm going to teach you how to systematically identify the core fears, desires, and needs of your customers. Now, once you know this, we're going to use it to create your USP, or your unique selling proposition. So this is the single magical sentence that sets your company and product apart from everybody else out in your marketplace. If you get it right, it can make you millions of dollars. If you get it wrong, your sales presentation is doomed to fail before you've even begun. This is how you stand out from all of the competition. So if you're worried about that, don't be. Competition is actually a fantastic thing. You just need to learn how to set yourself apart and stand out from the crowd, which is what we're going to teach you how to do in module number 2. Now, once we have an x-ray of your prospect's thoughts and feelings and your USP, we're going to dive into module 3, which contains the 12-part formula that I gave you today. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step with examples that are much more detailed and much more in depth than the ones I shared with you earlier, so that you can swipe them and model them and apply them to your product or service. But we're not just going to use the 12-part formula. And in fact, we're going to expand it from 12 to 25 parts. So what are the extra 13? Well, they're what I like to call conversion power-ups. So these are the advanced psychological triggers and conversion boosters that can take a good sales presentation and turn it into one that can change your financial lot in life forever. So here are a few examples of these conversion power-ups that I'm going to be teaching you in Module 3. The first, emotional trigger words. So these are carefully selected words that have been proven over the decades to increase the emotional response in all sales copy. And you have to remember that buying is an emotional response to a problem. So that's the first one. Second is called a pattern interrupt. Getting your prospect's attention is the very first job that you have in your sales presentation. So this is one of the single most effective ways to do that. Then we have the Hollywood Open. Now, have you ever noticed that almost every Hollywood movie out there, especially in the action genre, uses a similar opening sequence to grab your attention and then suck you into the story? Well, that's because it works. So we're going to use it too. I'm going to show you how to use that same style of open and that same strategy in your sales presentation so you can get maximum engagement. So next is value stacking. Now, this is a method that we're going to use towards the end of your presentation to help you craft that critical, irresistible offer and just take it over the top. Next up is called the open loop. Now, if your prospects don't read or watch your sales presentation to the end, they're never going to buy from you. So the best way to ensure that they do is to use what we call an open loop, and I'm going to obviously teach you how that's done and how to use it in your presentation. We're also going to dive into even more detail when it comes to creating your irresistible offer. We obviously talked about this a lot today, so I'm going to give you 3 different irresistible offers that I have personally used in my presentations that have skyrocketed my conversion rates. And actually 2 of them now I've never seen used anywhere else before, and it works really, really, really well. So that brings us to our next conversion power-up, which is called the ultimate upsell script. So the single fastest way to double or triple your daily revenue within the next 48 hours is to offer additional products or services to your new customers. So I'm going to actually give you my upsell scripts, which will allow you to make these offers and do it without coming across as greedy or pushy. So those are 8 examples of the types of conversion power-ups I'm going to be teaching you. Obviously, we're going to have 5 more in addition to those that you're going to learn as well. So by the end of Module 3, you're basically going to have the most detailed and advanced sales formula that I can personally give you, along with every conversion booster that I've used in my presentations to make well over $50 million in sales of my products over the last 10 years. Now, that brings us to Module number 4. So by the time we hit Module 4, you're going to have your sales presentation completely written, and you're going to be ready to turn it into a VSL or a webinar. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do next. You're going to follow along on my screen as I show you how to create, edit, and post your sales video step by step. I'll show you which microphone I use. I'll give you the PowerPoint template or Keynote template for your slides. And I'm even going to walk you through the very simple editing process and show you how to post it on your website. You do not need to have any technical skills. You'll literally follow along with me on your screen, click by click. We'll do this together. And once you learn it and know how to do it, you'll be able to do it on your own moving forward for all of your other sales presentations into the future. Now, if you want to use an automated webinar, well, we're going to dive into that next in Module 5. I'm going to log you into my EverWebinar account, and I'm going to show you how to set up your own sales webinar step by step. Once again, you do not need any technical skills whatsoever. All you need to do is watch the video and follow along and do what I do. Now, webinars are a little bit different because once people register for your webinar, we talked about this earlier, you need to get them to schedule it on their calendar and actually show up. So over the past year, I've written and tested a 3-part email reminder series that has given my webinars one of the highest show-up rates that I know of. And the good news is that as a participant in this program, you're not going to need to write your own emails from scratch because I'm going to give you copies of mine and you can just model them and use them for your webinar. So, huge time saver there for you, and there's no need to reinvent the formula. Go with what works. I'm just going to give you my emails that you can model. So this is where things start to get really exciting. At this point, you've got a complete and working automated VSL or webinar that's ready to bring in some serious cash flow, and the only thing that's missing is traffic. So we're going to take care of that here in Module 6, which is titled How to Make $5,787 per day with a Facebook Advertising Campaign. So obviously you remember this case study where I made an average of $173,000 per month, which is just over $5,700 per day in revenue for my Facebook campaign. Well, I'm going to sit down with my friend Jason, who runs those campaigns, and in fact, you can hire him too. I'll give you his contact information inside the program, and he's going to log you into my Facebook account and show you how that's done. You're going to see my ads, my websites, and everything in between, so getting tons of targeted traffic automatically every single day will never be an issue for you again. Now, on average, only around 5% of your website visitors or prospects will ever buy your product, and that's if you have a really good sales presentation. You'll remember from that screenshot earlier that my List Grow webinar had a conversion rate just over 6.3%, and that's of the people who actually showed up and watched the whole thing. That's just the way that sales works. Imagine all of the people who walk past, let's say, a cell phone or sunglass kiosk in the mall every day without buying, at least 99% of people. Well, it's no different on the internet. But just because someone doesn't buy your primary product or service doesn't mean that they won't buy something else. Now, for example, as an entrepreneur, you're interested in learning how to build your business, but there's a very good chance that you're also interested in learning how to invest your money as your business grows. Now, I don't have a product or service on investing anymore, but there are a few great ones out there that I personally love and would recommend, and I can promote those as an affiliate. So our 7th and final module is titled How to Make an Extra $419,000 from All of the Prospects Who Say No Thanks to your product or service. And in this part of the program, I'm going to walk you through one of my personal promotions which did exactly that. Now, real quick, for those of you who might not be familiar with the terminology that I'm using, as an affiliate, you're basically promoting somebody else's product or service. They get the sales and customers, and then they split that revenue with you. And typically a commission rate is about 50%. So if you promote a product that costs $100, you'd make a $50 commission. Now, with that being said, you need to be extremely selective about the products that you promote because you're tying your reputation to that product. If you promote low quality products, your readers are going to stop taking your recommendations. So in a normal year, I might promote just 2 or 3 affiliate products or services beyond my own. And these are always products that I have purchased myself and have really enjoyed. Now, one of my favorites a few years ago was a financial newsletter written by this guy, Mark Ford. So Mark is an amazing entrepreneur author. I love his work. Don't bother looking him up on Google right now. Again, I'll send you a link to his website if you want to go check him out and his books once we're done. But during this campaign, I sent 4 emails over the course of a week. And as a result, you can see right here, I made $419,752 in commissions in 7 days. And the really cool part is that's basically 100% profit. I don't have to fulfill anything. I don't have to do any work. All I did was have to send a couple of emails, and I got a check for $419,000 a couple of weeks later. So if you'd like to learn how to make almost $500,000 in a single week just by endorsing a product that you already use and love, well, I'm going to give you copies of all 4 of those emails, and I'm going to walk you through each one so that you'll understand the sales psychology and a very, very unique offer that made them so successful. This is one of those irresistible offers that, as far as I know, I'm the only one who's ever done. I haven't seen this used anywhere else. And obviously, it worked unbelievably well, and I'm going to teach you exactly what I did and how to do that as well. All right, so we have covered a lot so far today. I hope you have pages and pages of notes. We're not quite done yet, but ideally, at this point, I've shown you beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is absolutely possible to create a simple automated sales presentation that can make your business millions of dollars per year without having to talk to a single person in the process. You've seen that it's absolutely possible to sell your product or service without being pushy or manipulative in any way, and that you can even become a hero in your prospects' eyes by taking the time to really educate them. And you've also seen that you can use this strategy even if you're starting from scratch without the need for an existing audience, without the need for an email list, or a large advertising budget. So if you are ready to acquire the ability to generate sales and cash flow on demand and ideally change your life forever in the process, here's how you can sign up for the program. So the 7-Figure Sales Presentation Masterclass is going to begin again on Wednesday, June 8th. Your first lesson is already waiting for you in the private members area so that you can log in today and get started. And then I'll be releasing a new video lesson every week for the next 60 days or until the program is complete. I have a feeling that's about how long it's going to take me to teach you everything, but that's going to be a rough estimate. If we need to go for 90 days, we'll go for 90 days. I'm going to keep rocking until I give you guys absolutely everything that you need. And your only job during this process is to just watch the videos and then follow along with me step by step as we write your sales letter and create your automated sales presentation together. So by the time class is done, you should have a fully functional sales presentation that's ready to get you new customers automatically and make you and your business much more money. Now, speaking of money, what about the price, right? We haven't talked about that yet. Well, once the course is complete, I'm going to be selling it for $14.97 on MikeDillard.com, just like my list building course. But because you guys are essentially the founding group of students who are going to be following along with me as we implement this together, I'm going to give you a $300 discount and cut that price to just $11.97. Now, to put that in perspective for you, I charge $2,500 an hour for consulting. I have people who pay me that on a regular basis. And that's for a 1-hour phone call. So for less than half that price, you're going to get me for 2 to 3 months, and I'm about to give you a chance to go through the entire program for free. So this is an insanely important opportunity to invest in yourself right now that you definitely need to take. So I'm going to follow my own advice, if you will, and I want to make this a completely safe decision for you and remove all of the risk as we talked about earlier in today's presentation. And I'm going to do that with an unprecedented 2-part guarantee that, as far as I've ever seen, I am the only one who is willing to offer this or do this. So first and foremost, I'm going to give you a very simple, very cut and dry, no questions asked, 30-day money-back guarantee. Follow along for the first 30 days of the program, and if it's not a fit for you for any reason, just contact my support team at MikeDillard.com/support, and they will give you a prompt 100% refund. Very simple, black and white, cut and dry. But here's the second part of my guarantee, and where things are going to start to get a little bit interesting. Now, believe it or not, my goal here isn't to sell you a training program. Yes, I appreciate the business. That's awesome. But that's not my goal, and I'm going to prove that to you right now. My ultimate goal is to turn you into a successful entrepreneur who can go out and sell a ton of your product or service. Ideally, it has a lot of value for your customer base, and if I can help you do that and you can help them, that's how the world becomes a better place. In addition to that, it's to help you create an incredible new source of income and purpose in your life so that you can ultimately set yourself free. Now, while I'm going to take you by the hand and show you exactly what you need to do here in seven-figure sales presentations, in order to reach that goal, you have to take action. So at this point, I'm pretty confident that you're ready to get started and that you're serious about learning this skill set and that you're ready to take action because you wouldn't still be here otherwise. So I'm going to put my money where my mouth is and offer you something that I call a completion challenge. So here's what that is. Follow along with the program and create your sales presentation just like I'm going to show you how to do. And when you do, you're going to end up with a complete and working video sales letter or webinar that can generate paying customers for you automatically. Now, when your presentation is complete and live on the web, send my team an email at support@MikeDillard.com or just go to MikeDillard.com/support. Either way works. At any time over the next 6 months with a link to it, and I will send you a check for $1,197 to cover the entire cost of the program. In other words, I'm going to pay you to finish it and change your life. Now, I've never seen anyone else that's been willing to do this, so why am I? What's the catch? Well, I'm doing it because I want to reward people who take action, and I know that if you finish the course, I will have made such a massive impact on your life that you will be a raving fan and ideally a customer of mine in the future. So from my point of view, it's an investment in my most valuable asset, which is you, all right? In future business, future trust, future referrals, all of that good stuff. So at the end of the day, what this means is that there is literally no way you can lose here. At bare minimum, you've got a full 30-day money-back guarantee to go through the first month of the course and decide if it's right for you or not. And then when we're done and you've successfully built your sales presentation following the steps in the program, I will send you 100% of your money back. So you'd be kind of crazy not to do this and learn this skill set with zero risk on your end, in my humble opinion. So let me show you how to get started. And then I've got actually one more really big surprise for you that I'm going to give you guys as participants in this masterclass. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to notice a button that's just appeared to join the 7-Figure Sales Presentations Masterclass. I want you to click on that button right now and join. And when you do, a fully secure checkout page is going to pop up in a new window so that you can fill it out while you continue to listen and watch the rest of the webinar. So after you fill out the registration form and hit submit, you're going to be taken to the login page for the 7-Figure Sales Masterclass area. And all you need to do is enter your username and password that's going to be sent to you via email, and that's it. Watch the welcome video to get started and follow along as I send you a new lesson each week, and we're going to go through this entire process together step by step. And by the way, make sure that you forward your receipt to your CPA because this education program is a tax-deductible expense, at least here in the United States, under the continuing education category. So that'll save you another 25 to 40%, depending upon which tax bracket you're in. Now, as you fill out the form, I mentioned a minute ago that I have one more surprise for you, which is likely going to become one of your most valuable possessions because it is one of my most valuable possessions. So have you ever seen a movie where the hero finds the little black book with secret knowledge that transforms their life and gives them superpowers or something like that, right? Well, all of the best marketers in the world have our own little black book. So one of the biggest secrets to success when it comes to writing and producing a winning sales presentation is to model other presentations that have already been proven winners. You do not have to reinvent the wheel here, and you don't want to. You simply want to model what works. So my little black book is filled with transcripts of the most successful money-making sales presentations on the web. And in fact, I want to give you a few examples of these priceless marketing gems that are in my black book. So do you remember seeing a video a couple of years ago called The End of America? It was put out by Stansberry Research, and it was all over the web. It was all over the radio for about a year or two. Well, that sales video was one of the most successful in history, and it helped them acquire over 1 million new customers for the company. And I have the video and the transcript for all of it. It is definitely something that you want to model and learn from. And then there is this. This is an ad that was written for the Wall Street Journal decades ago, and it was used to sell an estimated $2 billion in newspaper subscriptions. It is widely regarded as one of, if not the, most successful sales letters of all time, and I have a copy of it that I will be giving to you as well. So a few months ago, a startup launched a crowdfunding campaign for their 3D laser printer, and they sold, get this, over $28 million in pre-orders of that printer in just 30 days. And they did it using a sales presentation that was just 2 minutes and 59 seconds long. And the transcript from that video was only 25 sentences. Holy smokes. So I absolutely have a copy of that video and those 25 sentences in my little black book, and I'm going to give those to you as well. Now, if you're a listener of the Self-Made Man podcast, you may have heard recently from my friend Craig. He is known as one of the best marketers and salespeople on the planet. The last presentation he wrote produced over 33,600 new paying customers in its first 48 hours, all from cold traffic. In fact, that sales presentation was so effective and it got so many people and some very big, nasty corporations fired up that it was eventually banned by Google. So I happen to have one of the only links that are out there still and copies of that insanely effective sales presentation left that's virtually impossible to find. In addition to that, I have my own sales presentations, which I constantly go back to and reference. I have the original transcript of the webinar that made that $3.2 million in the first 7 days and over $10 million in the first 12 months. I also have a copy of the very first sales letter that I ever wrote for my ebook. I showed you the beginning of it, the headline for it here a couple of times in today's presentation. And that's the letter that took me from waiting tables to making my first $1 million in 18 months. And then it went on to make over $25 million in sales in the years following. And then there's obviously a copy of the webinar script that I wrote for my list building course, the one that brings in over $5,700 a day. And so as I write my new presentations, I'm constantly diving into my black book for headlines, for compelling openings, and irresistible offers that I can use in my next presentation. You can think of this resource as the most valuable cheat sheet in the world, and mine has literally made me millions of dollars over the years. And so as a participant in this masterclass, I'm going to give you access to my entire black book. You are going to get the entire thing complete with links to the sales video replays, to the webinar replays, and transcripts for all of them. So all you have to do is swipe your favorite pieces, model them, change them a little bit to fit your offer, your product, and your service, and use them in your presentation. That means this asset alone, in my opinion, is worth the price of the entire program 10x over. But I'm going to give this to you for free as a part of the program, as a part of your education when you join today. So with that being said, let's recap real quick. When you join the 7-Figure Sales Presentation Masterclass today, you're going to be officially enrolled in the 2-month-long implementation program where I'm going to be helping you create your own automated money-making sales presentation step by step. And yes, I want you to make sure you understand this. This sales methodology can be used to sell any product or service in any industry. Bottom line is this: if you would like to have more customers, this program will teach you how to acquire them. Next, when you join today before the deadline, I'm going to give you a $300 discount, and that's going to reduce the price from $14.97 to just $11.97. And I want you to know that this is a very exclusive discount for my customers and readers only. You guys are the only ones who are hearing about this. This is not going out in a hugely public way. If you see it on Facebook, it's because we're using their retargeting function to show you guys ads as a registrant for this webinar and my previous customer. This is a very, very exclusive deal. There's no affiliates. There's nobody else promoting it. This price is just for you. It ends this week when this promotion is over, and you will never, ever, ever see this program for that price again, ever. It will be $14.97. Next up, you get my 30-day 100% money-back guarantee so that you can go through the first month of the program without any risk whatsoever. And you will automatically be able to take me up on my completion challenge. So the way that works, once again, follow along and build your sales presentation just like I'm going to show you how to do. Send me a link to your complete and working funnel at any time within the next 6 months, and I will give you 100% of your tuition back via check or PayPal. So with this 2-part guarantee, there is literally no risk and literally no way you can lose. So there is no reason not to join and to get this skill set. Now, finally, I'm going to give you that absolutely priceless bonus when you join today, which is access to my private $1 Million Black Book, which is going to allow you to quickly and easily pull out pieces in all of the different parts, from your transition to your irresistible offer to your headline, from the most successful sales presentations in history, and just plug them into yours. So at this point, all you need to do is click that Add to Cart button to join, fill out the registration form, and you will get instant access to the welcome video to the very first lesson, and you will be officially enrolled in the 7-Figure Sales Presentations Masterclass. And if you decide to change your mind for any reason at any point over the next 30 days, you have my guarantee to back you up. So at this point, you've watched this entire presentation. You've seen that it's absolutely possible to create an automated sales presentation that can make your business millions of dollars. And it's clear that the 7-Figure Sales Program is going to show you exactly how to create yours. So with that being said, I would like to invite you one last time to participate in this masterclass so that you can start building your very own automated sales presentation, just like the ones I showed you today that I use in my business, and hopefully change your life in the process. I've made sure that this is a completely safe decision for you to make without any risk on your part whatsoever. So click the link to the right on your screen to get started. I cannot tell you how much of an impact this will make on your business and on your life. This is a skill set that every single entrepreneur must have. If you want to grow a business, you must sell your product or service. And if you want to sell your product or service, and if you want to do it easily and in an automated fashion, this is the program that will show you exactly how to do that. And it's the only one in the world that I'm aware of that will actually pay you to finish it. So I hope you join me in this masterclass. It's going to be absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your time during this webinar. I hope you learned a lot regardless on what you decide to do. But for those of you who are filling out the form or who have already done so, welcome to the 7-Figure Sales Presentations Masterclass. I'm so looking forward to working with you on this and to help you build your first presentation over the coming weeks and months. So thank you all so much once again for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the class. Thank you so much.